Big Riff Energy. It is hopefully out by Wednesday, August 13th. Running a little late, treatment issues and stuff like that. I will be doing an update on the GoFundMe for my wife. For anyone who's interested, I'll be keeping all the information over there. Got a question about the forthcoming Spirit Adrift LP, which we'll be tracking very soon. Got a question about favorite Death Doom bands, and some other interesting stuff to go over. Thank you, Dylan, my buddy Dylan, Cool Shirts, for this wild Metallica bootleg with the Grim Reaper. I love it, man. Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone that's been writing in and sending stuff and thoughts and prayers and good vibes and everything else. Love you guys. Also going to be going over the best riffs of 1984, which, as I said, it's going to get trickier and trickier to break those down. I'm going to be doing a couple of new things on this episode. I'm going to be punching in stuff and see if it works. I don't typically edit, but I want to have a little Terry Reid listening party. For those of you who don't know, Terry Reid was sort of kind of supposed to be the lead singer of Led Zeppelin. He ended up just doing a solo career and just had one of the most haunting and underrated and overlooked and ghostly vocals, especially his Seed of Memory album. I'm going to try to do a little mini listening party to some of that stuff later on. I also want to drop in one of my latest Riff for Hire projects. This guy asked for Matt Pike. Matt Pike. So, he said some High on Fire, maybe a little Windhand. I think he said Windhand. Maybe a touch of Pinkish Black, the legendary Pinkish Black. Rest in peace to Darren from Pinkish Black as well, obviously. Yeah, so stuff like that. Monolithic, fuzzed out, whatever, Matt Pike. So when I think of Matt Pike, I think of the first time I heard the first High on Fire album. I think of hearing Dope Smoker by Sleep, even the last Sleep record, which might be my favorite Sleep record. So I was kind of channeling that. So I'm just going to try to drop that in. This intro thing, I don't even really know what I was doing. It was kind of more of a free form. He starts a lot of those longer, slower Sleep songs, even some High on Fire songs, with just like almost free form stream of consciousness, like nasty, sustained, fuzzed out, brutal sounding chords. And yeah, it almost doesn't seem like it's even written or thought about in advance. So I kind of tried to do that, but I'll start playing once the riffs hit. So here's my attempt at a Matt Pike style Riff for Hire. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty pikey. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you want your own custom Nate Garrett Big Riff Energy riff for hire, Check out the description and the link below. You can send me some money, give me some money. And I'm glad somebody got the Spinal Tap reference last episode. But do please also write me at bigriffenergy@gmail.com and tell me what you want. 3 bands or 3 songs or just a style or whatever. I've been really enjoying doing those, and thank you to everybody that's allowed me to have fun and raise some money for my wife. Appreciate it. Rules. All right, I'm gonna start with a question from one of you, the listeners, the viewers, and then we'll get to the best riffs of 1984, which was tricky for me. There, I got to talk about a few. But first of all, Adrian. Oh, by the way, guys, go see that movie Weapons. Don't look up anything about it. Don't look at spoilers. Don't watch anything. Don't read about it. Don't listen to what anybody has to say about it. This is an unpaid endorsement. It was one of the most fun times I've ever had in a movie theater. I've never seen a movie like it. And I didn't love the dude's last movie, Barbarian. I wasn't so psyched on it. But this is, I have to say, it's one of my favorite horror movies I think I've ever seen. So, yeah, please go see that because it's like real art that isn't getting made a lot, especially in the Hollywood system anymore. So we all need to support that kind of stuff so we can get more cool stuff instead of constant D tier Marvel reboots and, Marvel Comics characters that are from the fucking trash bin that nobody's ever heard of. So go see Weapons. I strongly urge you to go see Weapons. All right. Adrian, I'll give a review of it at some point, but I can't say a word about it because anything you say about it is a spoiler. Go see it. Adrian, hoping to hear more about your journey towards realizing LP6, Spirit Adrift, album number 6. Yep. Are the lyrics already finished? The lyrics are finished and the vocals. This is demo stages. I demo everything here at home, like fully put the entire songs together, send them to the band, leave everybody open to add or change whatever they want, especially Mikey, the drummer, because he's a really, really, really good drummer. And I just program what's in my head. I kind of have figured out his style and some of his tricks, so I try to put it in there. But yeah, so when I'm speaking of this stuff, this is like demo phase stuff. Are the lyrics already finished? Yes, for 8 out of 10 songs. We're going to record 10 songs. The album may still only be 7 or 8 songs, but we can do some stuff with the extra. And I have to say, I've knocked off a lot of songs because I thought I would have 8 songs or 10 songs that were great, and I would just keep coming up with cooler stuff or combining songs, kind of like how Metallica did on Master of Puppets. They would smash. They would think they had 2 or 3 songs, and they would take all the best parts, put it into one song, and it would become Orion or something. So I've done that a lot. I probably demoed 20 songs for this album, but I am currently sitting on 10. And if we had to kick a couple few off of the album, I can honestly say I have no idea which ones would not make the cut. I have no idea. So I don't like doing hour-long albums. I know Dave doesn't like doing hour-long albums because then it's going to be probably too vinyl, and that's more expensive for the fans. But I've got 10 songs that I really, really, really feel strongly about. Vocals and lyrics are done for 8 of them. I have vocals for the 9th one, or lyrics for the 9th one, but no vocals, and 1 song with no lyrics and no vocals. So that's where that is. Are the song titles already locked in? I think so. Yeah. There's been a lot of working titles. One of them was called Evil Alice. One of them was called Elfman because it kind of had a Danny Elfman part, which it no longer has. One of them was called Drop a Doom. I think one of them was called like Crowbar Curb Stomp Beatdown. But they all have actual titles now. Yeah, and I don't see the titles changing. Where in the track order are you thinking of placing the title track and why? It is presumptuous of you to think that there's a title track, but you are correct. And where I'm seeing it sit right now is track 2, and there's a major, major reason for that. There's a major logic behind that. The track I'm seeing as the opening track is just a simple. We talked about Matt Pike. It's kind of in that vein. It is like a it's Matt Pike meets Candlemass meets Die Healing era St. Vitus meets Nile a little bit meets maybe Acid Bath, but it's short and just bam trouble definitely. So it's like ass whooper opener. Track 2, I want to be a little bit more ambitious, have some more changes and more kind of what you expect from Spirit Adrift, clean guitar parts and left field turns and big epic guitar harmony parts and stuff like that. And then track 3 I'm foreseeing is even more of a stripped down like St. Vitus old pentagram with maybe even a little bolt thrower or slayer in there. So I'm seeing it being like a straightforward track and then a not straightforward track and vice versa, through the whole course of the album. But we'll see. That changes. I mean, Ghost at the Gallows, the track listing that I foresaw, it ended up being almost backwards of what we decided to go with once the album was done. So we'll see. Uh, how long are the songs? Some of them are long. There's no like 12, 15-minute ones, but some of them are long. Some of them are really short. It's like a few of the shortest songs that Spirit Adrift has ever recorded. Assuming it'll be a Doom album, how's this one going to be different from Chained to Oblivion? It's way different. It's way more evil. The note choices. It's Chained to Oblivion was drop tuning. This is C sharp standard. And what I would do in drop tuning is a lot of Paul Bearer kind of sounding stuff, like very tragic, sad, melodic, you know, single note movements over tragic, chord progressions playing all at the same time and then like doubling and tripling and quadrupling the guitars and there's guitar harmonies all over everything and all the vocals are harmonized. This one, the songs are shorter. It's way more evil. Yeah, it's C sharp standard tuning, which is Master of Reality tuning. Most of the album, instead of going sad boy chord choice or note choice, I'm going evil angry boy note choice. So yeah, it has a lot more akin. Yeah, if Chain to Oblivion was inspired by like Warning, Watching from a Distance, and the first couple of Paul Bearer albums and Yob and stuff like that, this one is way more back to the source of like Trouble, Ozzy Sabbath, old Pentagram, even like 70s Pentagram, but really like the first two Pentagram albums when Bobby and Victor Griffin teamed up. First couple Candlemass albums. Nile has been a big inspiration, as has Solitude Eternus, because they both use the Phrygian stuff, so it sounds Egyptian and ancient and evil and mystical and stuff. Um, yeah, and vocally, it's way, way different from Chained. It's way more. I have figured out exactly how I want to sing. Um, and I was talking about I would never compare myself to Phil Anselmo. Uh, as a singer, he's just one of the best of all time. I feel like it would be very delusional and pretentious to do that. But there is something about his vocal style on the second Down record, not so much the first, where he's doing a lot of the scream singing, kind of similar to Far Beyond Driven, maybe with a little more clean vocal in there. But on Down 2, it's way different. He sounds more like a soul singer, channeling like the old stuff, like the 70s stuff, Paul Rogers and stuff like that. So I feel like my vocals with this stuff are kind of akin to that. Maybe even some Dax Riggsy, soulfully, a lot of vibrato kind of stuff. And yeah, and old school doom and gloom, like Solitude Eternus type of note choices with the vocals. It's more evil and mystical and kind of foreboding sounding rather than sad, if that makes sense. And that's kind of the whole vibe of the album. Chained to Oblivion was very sad sounding. When there were moments of triumph and, beauty and melody and stuff like that, this one is way just more like I'm in hell, and I'm gonna take you to hell with me, you know? Okay. I get that the riffs are supposed to sound meaner than before, but how does LP6 compare thematically to the other albums? Yeah, it's the meanest one. Divided, I was very, very angry. But this one, I would say the basic themes are like God has put so much on my okay, here's the theme. God hates you. He told me he hates you, and it's my mission to wipe you out and to kill you, and to not just wipe you out, but wipe out your entire bloodline, you know, that kind of stuff. Fire and brimstone kind of stuff. Or theme B, God hates me and I have to kill myself. That's kind of and this is these are narrative tools, you know what I mean? But it's very, very Old Testament and Book of Revelation inspired. You know, when I wrote Divided by Darkness, I was really into the Crowley stuff, and I tried to go in the opposite. I tried to go, you know what? We've got to wipe out all evil, you know, and we're going to do that, and it's going to look like we're evil, and it's going to sound like we're evil. Kind of the Trouble thing, you know. Trouble sounds really evil, but they're talking about wiping out evil and something like that. There's a lot more to it than that, but those are the broad strokes. Who did you use for a sounding board on this album, and how much did their feedback cause you to change or scrap any of your material? I usually use Dave at 20 bucks spin. He rarely ever tells me anything other than that's badass, you know, honestly. He trusts that like stuff's gonna change by the time. So if there's I feel like with Dave, if there's anything wonky, he almost is he's certain at this point in our working relationship that by the time it gets back to him, there's not going to be anything wonky. I use my wife Nicole as a sounding board 100%. She's probably number one because she's 1 foot in this world, but kind of more 1 foot in like the normal non-metal world. So I trust her instincts when it comes to like the songwriter, like and like what the feeling, you know, not so much as the technical aspects of like, oh, check out this riff. It could have been on South of Heaven, but it sounds like, you know, Funeral Doom or something. Like, I don't really rely on her for that kind of feedback. It's just more kind of like, sounds like what Rick Rubin does. He's either like, yeah, that's good, or like, I don't know about that. And of course, the guys in the band. Um, how much of the art concept have you already envisioned? All of it. Um, I almost said his name. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to spoil it. But the artist I reached out to, who's been my number one goal, my kind of white whale for album artist, he agreed to do this one. I almost kind of begged him. I'm not ashamed to admit it because he said no to me before. But he emailed me and said, dude, give me as much as you possibly can. Ideas, visuals, specific stuff. So I did what I always do, and I sketched the whole thing, and I put some notes in there and some references. So I've envisioned like the whole front cover, back cover, and everything like that. And it's right up this guy's alley. And I think it'll be really cool. Have ideas for videos begun percolating? No. Sonny had an idea for a video that's great, but those Neon Nightmare videos killed me. That experience. I fucking hate making music videos. I hate it. I hate it. So in fact, I think the rollout of this album, I I don't want to give away too much, but I want to put the whole album out with no singles or anything like that because I feel like previous albums have been judged based on one single. And the thing about Spirit Adrift albums is there's a lot of different kinds of songs. So if somebody out there hears the first single and it sounds like uh FM rock radio or Crazy Train or Tom Petty Refugee, and they're not into that, they're not maybe going to be as interested in the rest of the album, which sounds completely different. Like some of it sounded like Neurosis, you know. But I want people to judge this album as a whole. So I don't want there to be any singles. we have discussed potentially releasing music videos after the album comes out so that it won't color people's full beginning to end, you know, transformative, hopefully, journey that you go on over the course of the album. I don't want people's vibe to be dictated by one or two songs. But fuck doing, I hate doing music videos, dude. So I don't know. I know you're supposed to, and Dave will probably want us to, but uh, no, I don't have any ideas, nor do I even want to think about it. You previously cited there being a correlation between rainy weather and your bouts of creativity. How much of a factor was rain this time around? Ask everybody in Texas how much it's been raining this year. It's fucking weird. It's weird. It's been more intense than it's ever been by far. Uh, by far. And anybody in Texas can corroborate that. And my wife sees stuff happen. She'll see me finish like a thing that's been confounding me, or eluding me. And it's like no rain forecast, no clouds, and then suddenly we're in like fucking white squall or something. I mean, it's happened like every other day this year. Uh B marketing. Gimmick one. What's the chances of your sixth album? Hey, and if you guys are only a fan of this show and you don't care anything about Spirit Adrift, feel free to fast forward. We're doing the Terry Reid listening party. I'm going to go over a bunch of other stuff, including the best riffs of 1984. So I won't be offended. Uh, what are the chances of your sixth album dropping on the sixth day of the sixth month of 2026? A month ago, I would have told you it's probably coming out before that, significantly before that, but that's a pretty good idea. So I don't know. Thanks for that. That's a great idea. We'll run it up the flagpole. Gimmick two. Your live stream in January began with you lighting incense sticks to ward off evil spirits emanating from your LP6 writing sessions. I don't even remember that. Thank you. You got a mind like a steel trap, Adrian. I got a batch of CDs in the early 2000s from a label called Pacific Moon. Uh, all their CDs at that time included a bunch of incense sticks inside the spine of the plastic CD cases. Might be a pain in the ass to pull off, but I think it'd be fitting to do the same for LP6. Yeah, let's see. Dave has his hands full, man. Maybe we could do like a special edition where he sends me some copies and I could do that. That's a great idea, though. Yeah, this whole album is trying to ward off the evil in the world, man. Put a mirror up to the evil and wipe it out, or something like that. Take the light in you and make the light in you so monstrous and hateful and violent that it wipes out the darkness that's out there. So that would be cool. Okay. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. There's a lot of questions. Okay. You'll have quite a story to tell at the end of this album cycle. Please consider recording this journey. You can always choose not to release it, but you only get one opportunity to record the moment you're in. I'm thinking a year and a half in the life of Metallica, but with a more personal touch. Yeah, man, I've always wanted to do that. I really love a year and a half in the life of Metallica. I love Some Kind of Monster. I love all the Mastodon studio documentaries. I think they're really cool. It gives you that much more love for those guys and the process. And I would love to do that. It's just, dude, the way I work, and especially with Jeff Henson, who's going to be recording this album, it gets really intense. And I don't mean yelling and although there is some of that, but it's just really intense concentration and the workflow, again, especially between somebody like me and Jeff Henson, or me and Sanford Parker. It's just like at a certain point it becomes like mind meld, like telepathic, go 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 go, especially the vocals and stuff like that. And introducing like third parties into that environment can be a little weird, especially with the limited resources that we have. So I would like to do that, but the priority is always like getting a record that is like the absolute most perfect representation of what we're trying to do. And sometimes Those other things can be a little bit distracting. Um, so what do you guys want to do first? Best riff of 84, and then we can maybe do another question, and then we'll do a Terry Reid listening party if it'll work. I don't know if I get banned for doing that. Uh, we'll see. I don't even know who owns his rights, but I don't think it was him, unfortunately. Fucked up way of the music business. Let's see if this sumbitch is working. Yeah, it's working. My number one choice for 84. There are a lot of really, really, really good riffs on Ride the Lightning that are like uh hard to play, you know, and impressive. But the ones that stand out to me are the real epic, like memorable, triumphant ones. And the first one that comes to mind, old Kirkus. Die by My Hand by Exodus, which ended up becoming the Die by My Hand section in Metallica Creeping Death from Ride the Lightning, 1984. Another one, I know a lot of you are going to be like, what about all the thrash riffs? Stuff like that. It's great. But another one that comes to mind, let me see if I can remember this one. Trapped Under Ice. Again, it's kind of similar to the Creeping Death vibe of this big, memorable, powerful, like crowd participation chant, like scream, you know, hell, all that. But Creeping Death has to be number one. Has to be number one. I do like that riff in Trapped Under Ice though. And then there's another one in Ride the Lightning that's kind of those are all those kind of riffs are my favorite kind of Metallica riffs for the most part. I do want to mention Metal Church. Not that riff. But what I like about this is the idea of combining a mega fast right hand with a straight up like 4 on the floor drum groove. So cool, because you would think the drums would be going like double bass, but no, it's like but just the syncopation of that. God, it's hard. All right, so that'll be our runner up, I guess. Metal Church by Metal Church from the album Metal Church. Okay. 1984. Greg. Remove the crap material and all the things that make him an insufferable public persona. Top 5 all-time metal riff writer. Dave Mustaine. He's talking about Dave Mustaine, folks. Top 5 all-time metal riff writer. If not top 5, got to be at least top 10, right? Or am I wrong? At his very best, he's in the tier of riff untouchables. No one in metal history crushes an F sharp like Mustaine. What say you? And if you're down, what are your top 5 Mustaine riffs? Best of luck, wishes, and health to you and your family in this tough time. Stay strong. Heavy metal is the law. Greg. P.S. If you're looking to kill some time and have a laugh or two, check out So Far, So Pod, So What. It's a Megadeth podcast. We destroy the band almost as much as we praise them. Real quick, man, I got to meet Mustaine. I think I might have told it on here before. We were briefly working with a manager, really nice guy, who got me and Mikey from Spirit Adrift at one of those tours in Corpus Christi. It was like In Flames. Think Lamb of God. Yeah. Saw Randy that night. And Megadeth. And Dave was kind enough to meet up with us, gave a bunch of records to Dirk and gave a note to Dave and stuff. only man I've ever been in the presence of who I was intimidated by. I can say I'm like thoroughly, thoroughly intimidated by. But it's not because he was a dick. It's just because it was fucking Dave Mustaine. he was uh he was actually really cool to us. I think he kind of tested our vibe at first, and we passed. He could tell that we weren't gonna like fanboy out on him and aggravate him and stuff. And then he helped us out and was really kind to us and made sure that we were able to watch side stage and stuff. So that was really a cool experience. He's a hero of mine, regardless of anything. Absolute hero. He invented thrash metal. Really, his left and right hand invented thrash metal. Favorite riffs, basically, man, the whole Rust in Peace album, the stuff in Take No Prisoners, the stuff in Holy Wars, the stuff in Tornado of Souls, and then uh number one Mustaine riff for me that I don't hear enough people talking about that I have tried to learn and I literally don't know how to play. I cannot figure it out. He would have to sit down and show it to me. It's like those fast ACD riffs, but on steroids and speed. Poison Was the Cure. That main riff in Poison Was the Cure. I would play it, but I can't play it. That's one of the most fucking acrobatic, athletic, like physically demanding, just explosive things that anybody's ever played on a guitar. So that's number one. I can play a lot of Take No Prisoners and stuff that people would view as being like some of his more challenging stuff. But dude, oh my God. And Lucretia, great riffs, but going into Poison Was the Cure. Like, that is one of the best metal riffs ever. All right, had a technical glitch there. We're talking about Dave Mustaine. I would say top 5, top 10 all time metal riff writer. I can't remember what got cut or what didn't, but I would actually say he invented thrash metal. Him along with like maybe Gary Holt. Um, Obviously Metallica was important, but it was kind of Dave that took that new wave of British heavy metal stuff and really injected it with that speed and ferocity. And I think his left hand and right hand invented thrash metal. And as far as top 5 riffs, yeah, like I said, uh, Poison Was the Cure, and then pick 4 riffs from Rust in Peace or Peace Cells or whatever, minus Dawn Patrol. And I do like the riff from Angry Again. Yeah. All right. So let me try and get back on track here. I just lost the back half of the podcast. Good times. No producer over here. Self-produced, baby. We're going to talk about Terry Reid and then answer one more question. Uh Take yourself back to 2005. I'm 17 years old. Roberto Zombo has released The Devil's Rejects. And I got mixed feelings on his output as a filmmaker and a musician. Some of it's okay, some of it I'm ambivalent towards, some of it I don't like. But the man is really good at putting soundtracks together, okay? I mean, I got clued in on post Joe Walsh era James Gang, that song Ride the Wind that's in Three from Hell. That Susie Quattro song that's in Three from Hell, great stuff. I think I really got into Buck Owens from House of a Thousand Corpses. But the Devil's Rejects soundtrack was really special, and it had 3 songs by this guy, Terry Reid, British guy. The songs were Faith to Arise, Seed of Memory, and Brave Awakening. All incredible songs from the same album, the Seed of Memory album. So I started looking in. I mean, this guy's voice is just, you'll hear it here in a second. I started looking into him, and it turns out there's several versions of this floating around, but he was the original choice for a vocalist for Led Zeppelin. And based on who you listen to, something happened with management. Zeppelin's management versus Jimmy Page's management versus Terry Reid's management or something. And one version that I've heard, my grandma actually just told me this, was that they wanted Terry, they knew Terry, and he got convinced by management he was better off pursuing a solo career. Bonham knew a guy, obviously, so they bring in Robert Plant. I had heard for years that they auditioned Terry Reid and they're like, that's our guy. And then Bonham was like, we need to hear Robert Plant. And so they heard Robert Plant and they had given Terry the gig and were like, sorry, Terry, it's this guy. Either version potentially sucks for Terry Reid, you know? So he was part of this whole British group of guys that like the Brits heard the American music from the South, the blues and even like the folk music and the country music. It just made it heavier, you know? Zeppelin, Sabbath, all of these guys have such good voices. Rod Stewart, Paul Rogers, I talk about him all the time. I think Terry has the coolest voice out of all of them. Back when he really had his voice, he wrecked it somehow. I don't know if it's illness or smoking or what, but if I had a time machine, I would not go back and kill baby Hitler. That would be on the list. But my number one thing, I think, would be to go back, try to convince Terry Reid to join Led Zeppelin. It's not that I don't absolutely love Zeppelin. I'm not sure that they would be better or worse with Terry Reid, but I know it would be different. And I try to imagine how that band would turn out like spiritually and sonically if they had Terry Reid on vocals. So unfortunately, like he never got any of the accolades or recognition of his contemporaries. Like he came up with all those dudes, Traffic and Jeff Beck and Clapton and yeah, Paul Rogers and Rod Stewart and all that British like hard rock, hard heavy blues stuff. The Seed of Memory album is almost like a twisted sounding country album. It's like a really heartbreaking sounding country album. And I don't know what his situation was with his rights. Seems like it's a mess. If you try to like look up full albums, it's almost impossible. It's stuff being uploaded willy-nilly by people on YouTube. So I did go ahead and hunt down one of only like 2 copies of Seed of Memory in North America. And I'm in the process of figuring out a lot of vinyl to sell to make up for that expense because I felt like I had to have it. So yeah, rest in peace, Terry Reid. Let me see if this works. I'm going to make 2 different versions of this podcast in case they kick me off for playing his stuff. But I just want to sit here and listen to a couple little parts of a couple songs here. So here we go. Terry Reid incoming. First ever Big Riff Energy listening party. Terry Reid, Faith to Arise, baby. Let's see if this works. Immediately a sick one. Be talking over it so it constitutes a commentary or reaction video so YouTube Nazis don't take this down. But listen to this voice.
Can you hear what I've been thinking? Do you hear my words out loud? There's an echo that's insisting that this headphone ring out now.
All due respect, but fuck Robert Plant, son.
When it don't, I wonder why. Maybe I'm somewhere you can reach me on this dark and lonely night.
Robert Plant is nowhere near in this stratosphere, dude. Come on.
What a faith to arise, yeah. Feel that look in your eyes. You know everything it could be bringing at a time and place in your mind.
Kind of funky pre-chorus, but it's going somewhere. It's like a double pre-chorus. Come on, man. But the drummer's leaning a little more in. Come on, son. What a chorus, dude. That guitar riff too, man, reminds me of that Gene Clark song that has that it just keeps going. keeps going, and it's so sick. All right, here's a sadder one. This is Seed of Memory. This really shows like the heartbroken side of the guy, you know. Mystical ass flute. Not too far removed from the more Lord of the Rings inspired Led Zeppelin material, you know.
Brave dreams are like a kindle from ashes. Rise out all the battle below. Spread wings over all that he passes, so his life can stay immortal to his country. While the shades of green that fall beneath this tree, so let the winds of change that rearrange the country.
Like a fucking
Let it
ghost.
also sow a seed of memory.
Guys, I think you're really born with that, or you're not born with that. There's some just genetic pain, man.
Spread dreams where the battle below. Bring love with a song as she passes, so his life can stay immortal to the country. Let every man aware of being free. When she talks of times when wine is handed to me from a face that walked out of a memory.
Can you imagine Led Zeppelin with that fucking haunted ghost full of pain and fucking grit, you know? We got the babies. We got Robert Plant occasionally got into some of that super duper painful, weird, mystical kind of stuff on like In the Light and stuff like that. But God, imagine that dude singing for Zeppelin. All right. Back to the show. Okay, and we're back. Last question from Dan from New Zealand. Hope you're doing well, all things considered. Given how you've essentially made doom and death metal, what is your favorite death doom band? Hooded Menace is probably my fave. The new song rules. Big love from New Zealand. Yeah, I love Hooded Menace. And I have made death metal and doom metal, but I've made all kinds of other music before the bands y'all have heard of. You know, I've been in sludge bands, punkish bands, and psychedelic bands, and bands that sound like Fugazi, and bands that sounded like CKY. And I mean, I've made a lot of different music. I've played country, but I guess I am most associated with doom metal and death metal and that sort of stuff. I had a list typed up earlier, but my glitch completely fucked everything up. So my thing with this death doom thing is a lot of my favorite bands in that realm. I'm not sure that they totally qualify for the death doom sub genre label. Some of them I would think would be called more like funeral doom, but bands like Mournful Congregation for sure. Asunder, right? Is Clarion Call by Asunder? Yeah. I like that band Ahab a lot. Loss from Nashville, way, dude. To me, they're the most devastating. But again, I think that's like funeral doom, funeral death doom. But Loss from Nashville, I've talked about them a lot, but to me, yeah, that's the most crushing emotionally and sonically. There was a band called Morgion. Relapse put out a record called Among Majestic Ruins. That's really good. I finally been getting into Anathema. Thanks to Chris Bruni at Profound Lore for that. Band never clicked with me, but I like that Silent Enigma album by Anathema a lot. Yeah, Hooded Menace for sure. Evokin, shout out to Evokin, love them. And then there's like death metal bands. Okay, let me talk about Burning Witch. I don't think Burning Witch qualifies as death doom. It's more just like really, really nasty doom metal because he's singing and wailing, and maybe the vocal disqualifies them from being death doom. But if Burning Witch is death doom, they're number one to me, but I don't think they are. It's a fine line. I don't want to get yelled at by Redditors that are like really adherent to these policies of subgenre or whatever. You also have just straight death metal bands that have really slow parts. Oh, and Hedonist for sure. And Hedonist. I was going to mention, I was supposed to see Mournful Congregation. I think I've mentioned this on here before. And I defended myself far too effectively from some drunk asshole causing problems while on and Hedonist was opening for Mournful Congregation. And I defended myself so effectively that I got thrown out. The other guy, they left him in, I guess, because they felt sorry for him or something, or he had to tend to his wounds or whatever. Definitely deserved it, but prevented me from seeing Mournful Congregation. And I still haven't seen him. So fuck you, Dutch Dan, bitch ass motherfucker. Yeah, I always think of that when I think of Mournful Congregation. Prick. Okay, so you have you have just like death metal bands with slow parts too. So like Cyanide from Chicago, I would call them Death Doom for sure. Very much underrated. Um, who else? Yeah, like Asphyx has some doomy parts. The early Autopsy stuff, I like that the first two Autopsy albums a lot. That's got some doomy stuff on it. And don't cancel me, but Disma toward the Megalith, however you feel about that guy, there is some Death Doom stuff on that that's like some of the coolest, heaviest stuff ever made in that style of music. So I hope that answers your question. Here's a funny little anecdote too on the topic of Death Doom. I played in a band in Arkansas called Sinking South, and I was on bass at first. Once I moved to guitar, I kind of started writing more of the songs, and I was writing these real slow, like a lot of the stuff was like Church of Misery esque, or I Hate God, or just doom, like really, really doomy. The most upbeat it would get is like Into the Void, Black Sabbath style stuff like that. But we had this drummer, Rob, dude, shout out Rob Storms, one of my favorite humans on earth, one of my favorite drummers too. Rob was way more into like Mastodon and Mars Volta, and he was like really drum centric. He was a real, studied, disciplined drummer that loved to like go off. And so we would have these riffs that were like super, super slow, like drop A or something like that. And under these like monolithically slow trotting parts with, tons of like sustain between every chord and stuff. He's doing like death metal kick, double kick under it, but at halftime. And because I was like completely uneducated about death doom and stuff like that at the time, my dumb ass was like, dude, did we just invent like a new thing? I'm playing St. Vitus riffs slow as possible, and he's blasting away with a double kick underneath, but the hands are still going halftime. And I'm like, whoa, this is like a new thing. It's like death metal sludge or something like that. Death sludge. But really, if I were to listen to that stuff right now, it's like, no, idiot. That's genre has been around since probably the 80s, bro. But yeah, we were a little bit I think I was like 18, 19 at that point. So I was a little naive and thought that my band Sinking South had invented a new style of metal. That cracks me up to this day. Yeah, guys, I'm gonna put any personal related updates with our situation over here in the GoFundMe. If you write me at bigriffenergy@gmail.com, let's keep it about riffs and stuff like that. The outpouring of love and the messages and the good vibes and the prayers and the everything, it's really, really appreciated. It does get difficult at times to have to answer the same stuff throughout the day of how are you? How is it? How's it going? It fucking sucks when your wife has cancer. It just fucking sucks, dude. And it doesn't mean we're not going to get through it. It doesn't mean for the vast majority of the day that we're not, really legitimately, rationally hopeful because we are. I think it's going to all be fine, but it fucking sucks. You want to know how I am? I vacillate from bouts of like blinding, all consuming rage and despair to like everything's going to be fine, So that's how it is. But if you write me on here, keep it about the podcast or about commissioning me for riffs on spec or whatever. So there you have it. Rest in peace to Terry Reid. Rest in peace to Ozzy. God, all the best singers are just transcending to the other side lately. Check out Seed of Memory by Terry Reid if you can find it anywhere. Hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, Spirit Adrift is recording album number 6 very soon. So I'll try to keep you guys vaguely up to date on what's going on there. Also, there's a very, very, very special thing about to happen with Neon Nightmare. I'll use the word exclusive, and it's super cool. So be on the lookout for that. As soon as I know more about that, I'll let you know. And yeah, see you guys.